Right, okay, so we've talked about Power BI Desktop. I'll give you some more insight and demo as we go along. So basically, this is what we talked about, Power BI Desktop, getting data, analyzing the data. We haven't been into relationships so far, but we'll be in the next demo. And of course, visualizing the data, publishing, and once you've published, you can collaborate. Right. So Power BI Desktop is the tool that you have to use to create your report. I will show you in a while that you can also build report from the cloud directly if you don't want to download and install Power BI Desktop. But there are a couple of differences. For example, the sources are not the same, so you don't have as much sources that you would have in Power BI Desktop. So definitely Power BI Desktop is your tool that you want to use to create your reports, right? Power BI service is the cloud, right? The cloud platform where you publish your reports. But it's not only about publishing reports. Power BI service can be used as well to create reports. So you can directly create report from Power BI cloud, right? So Power BI Cloud is the actual repository where you will create and publish your reports, right? So once you've created your report, you publish it and it will just sit in the Power BI service for the user to consume the report, right? So you can have real-time data or live data directly on your dashboards, right? So there is one feature that you have in Power BI Cloud that you don't have in the desktop. It's a feature called dashboard, okay, which is actually live tiles, which you do not have as such in a report. I'll show you in a demo what is a dashboard, right? So the cloud, there are, like I told you in the beginning, there are two possibilities of using the cloud. You can either subscribe for a free account, which has to be, you can't do from a Gmail account or whatever. So it has to be a work account or school email account. And the Power BI free account gives you up to 1 GB of storage. And of course, there is one important aspect of Power BI is about refreshing the data. You know, when you connect to Power BI, when you open your report, basically you have to click refresh for the data to be refreshed, right? So however, you can automatically schedule refresh. So if you want your reports to refresh automatically, you can't have your report to be refreshed when you open the report, right? It doesn't refresh when open, so you have to schedule refresh. So if you are on the Power BI free account, you can have 1 refresh per day, auto refresh. Of course, you can do manual refresh as much as you want, but auto refresh, you have 1 per day. And if you are using the Power BI Pro account, you have up to 10 GB of storage per user, and you can have up to 8 refresh per day, right? And you have a couple of more additions or additional functionalities that you have. Apart from sharing, you have the ability to manage users and to give permissions. And of course, you have the ability to create what we call content packs, okay, which is basically a set of reports, dashboard, and data set that you can export to another tenant, etc. Right? So this is about.
Sorry.
Yes.
Sorry, after Tahir's here. So can we use both on the same tenant? So some accounts free and some accounts pro. Can we do like a merge?
Yes, yes, you can. Definitely you can. But one thing to remember is if you have 2 users, one is using Pro and one is using free, the one using Pro will only be able to share his reports to the one using Pro. A Pro account can't share his report to a free account. Okay. So which means that when you have created those reports and you have published those reports, users with a free account will not be able to see those reports that has been published by a Pro account.
Oh, so I'm a little bit confused here, Actor. So does both not have the same extension or it's the same Power BI report? So how come one doesn't have it
No,
and
it's not the
the
same.
rest
It's
are.
not the same. Just a moment. It's not the same. It's not the same repository. When you are on a Power BI free, you have a personal repository. And imagine Power BI free, it's like a OneDrive where you have your OneDrive. Okay. So if you're using Power BI free, you view only reports that have been created by you. You cannot view reports that have been created, has been shared by any other user. Actually, when you will share, when a pro user click on his report and start typing in a user, if the user is not a free account, is not a pro account, the user will not be able to view that report. Same thing on the other, vice versa. So if a free account, if somebody that has got a free account creates a report, as soon as that free account try to click on the share button, it will tell him you are not allowed to share because you're using a free account. So again, free account is like a personal workspace. It's a personal workspace. You view only reports that you have created. So it's like a personal drive, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, I got you. I
Uh,
got you. I got you.
Akhtar, free account can share with the free account user.
No, no. Free account is personal. You can use free account only for your personal use. Free account doesn't have the share capacity. The share capability you can't have. There is no sharing with free account.
Got it.
Yeah. Okay. If you need now to have, so now if you want to go enterprise wide, you want to share your reports. Of course, there are two options. You can use the option from Pro. Everybody has got a Pro account. Or if you don't want to buy by user, you buy Power BI Premium. Okay. Which is like a compute type of account. So you have computing capacity, etc. So you buy in terms of what you need. So you can go premium capacity 1, premium capacity 2, premium capacity 3. So you can decide. So Power BI Premium is what you have if you want to go enterprise wide, or if you have many users, and most probably it makes sense because as you remember, the pricing was around $5,000 per month. So depending on how many users you have, it might make sense to go Power BI Premium instead of going on a per user basis, right? So if you have Power BI Premium, you can also extend on-premise capabilities. So you can also use Power BI report server on-premise, right? Coming to Power BI report server, this is for users and for companies that don't want to use Power BI Cloud, don't want to put their data on the cloud because for whatever reason they want to remain on premise, so they have the ability to use Power BI report server, okay, which is a repository like the Power BI Cloud, so where you can publish your reports, but it doesn't have exactly all the same functionalities, right? So there are a couple of functionalities that are available only to Power BI Cloud. For example, the dashboard capability is only available to Power BI Cloud. Okay, a couple of Q&As also available only in Power BI Cloud, right? So Power BI Report Server, for those who know about SQL Server reporting services, it's pretty much what SQL Server reporting services look like, right? So this is Power BI Report Server. You can create and publish reports over there, right? And of course you can share because now it's on premise. You can share. It's a intranet portal. You can share and you can consume in a number of ways. You can also consume via a mobile app or a web portal, or you can even use embedded, right? So it works as well, but of course it's on premise. Okay, so you have to install it. You download the installation file, you install it on a report on a Windows server, you connect that to a SQL server, and you have your reporting engine on premise ready to use, right? And of course, it can connect to a number of, in terms of the reporting, you have the same capability. So you still design your report with desktop, but then when you publish to Power BI report server, right? So The other way of using Power BI is using the embedded option. So this is for use if you want to use it in a specific page, web page somewhere, or in a specific web application somewhere. So then you can use Power BI embedded. So I had a question earlier, can we customize the layout? No, you can't customize the layout of that Power BI app, the Power BI service. But what you can do is you can create your own page using SharePoint or using any other language, and then you can just plug in that snippet, that code snippet, that code embedded. You can just plug that in your website, in whatever language you build your website. It will just render as part of your web application, as it would have done, as it did for earlier for SharePoint, right? So, okay, so let's spend some time now on Power BI service, right? So Power BI service is where you publish your reports, right? So this is this service gives you a number of functionalities. So it gives you dashboard capabilities, it gives you reporting capabilities, it gives you data set, and workbooks is only if you have Excel file, etc. Right? So let me just quickly show you Power BI service in action. So I will just reshare my screen again. Okay, not this one, sorry. Okay, let's go this one, and right. So this is my Power BI cloud, right? So this is what we have been working on. Okay, fine. So this is how you access it is just app.powerbi.com, or directly from your Office 365 login, you go to your Power BI app. It will give you this Power BI interface, right? So what you have on this interface is the ability to view all your reports, right? For example, here you can see the report that I've just built, okay? That I've just built and published. It shows up here as a report, okay? So you can see it is showing up under reports. So there's demo one, etc., trip report, and all these are showing up under reports, right? So I can have travel plan. All these are the same Excel file presented differently, right? So now what I can do from this, I can say I have a number of reports. I have this one that has been built in a different manner. I have this one, which is exactly the same data, but presented differently. So what I want to do is I want to take bits and pieces from the report to make one dashboard. Actually, this is what it is. This is what dashboard is. Dashboard is merging together multiple parts of one report. For example, I'm interested into this section on this report, and what I will do is I will pin this visual. I'll use pin, and I will create a new dashboard. So I will say I'll just create a dashboard called Web Power BI. Right, fine. So I've pinned this. And then what I'm also interested in is maybe some other, now this one I'll take from another report. And what I'm interested in is this map. So I will pin that in the same dashboard. Okay, I'll pin that. And anything else that I might be interested in, it can or cannot be related. Okay, not this one. I'll take another one. Okay, which is, let's say, with more reports. Yeah, that's, for example, I'm interested in this one, and I will pin that as well to, right. So what happened is it has created for me Web Power BI into dashboard this time. And you can see it's under dashboards. It has created a dashboard. So the dashboard look is a little bit different. Okay, because and you in a dashboard you can't have you can't move. Well, you can, but you can't design it the way you would have done it in a Power BI desktop report. A dashboard is only a way to present bits and pieces of information, and these are all live tiles. It means that it is directly connected to that report, and when I will click on this, it will automatically drill down to that report. Okay. Fine. Right. So let me give you another feature of that dashboard. So this is a nice feature that you have in Power BI Cloud. It's about querying or asking question, or what we call Q&A. So you can come here and say total expenses. I can just write this, and this is what we experienced when we talked about self-service BI, right? So the concept behind BI has always been, right? So IT will create some dashboards and will provide that to business, etc., etc. So this is a little bit of a game changer, because what the user can do once they have the data, they can start querying the data. For example, they can say total per country. Okay, so I would say total cost, because it was right. So you can see it's actually building the report. Okay. It's building the report from my questions, right? So I can just type in my questions. I can say total cost for example, okay, so if I just type total cost, see what happens. It gives me the total in a kind of a visual that we choose in Power BI desktop. But you can, if I say so by month, it will try and break down by month and provide me with the chart, etc. And what I can do with that chart, I can just say, okay, this is the visual that I like. I will pin this visual to my dashboard. So I start creating my dashboard only by asking questions. Okay, and so this is a simple example that we've took from the travel plan. If I show you some other, it's a more complete like a report. I can say total sales, okay, by region, for example. And it would, for example, like it suggests even by district, etc., etc. So it builds the report for me. Okay, and if I just say total sales, it will just give me my total sales, right? So I can ask questions on my data. So this is one way, and there is a lot of suggested. So I can say top stores by total sales. Okay, so pick, it means that if there was a picture, it would have picked up the picture and showed it as well. Okay. So this is one interesting thing that we have in Power BI Cloud. Is about asking questions. Okay, so ask question about your data. You can write in, of course, this is going to be English language. You just type in what you want, and it will start providing you the data based on what you have. So it does two things. First, it starts looking for words with similar meaning from a business perspective. For example, you can start typing revenue. Okay, so if I say total revenue, try and find the match for revenue. Does it find? Doesn't find. So it might suggest what other, I can say profit if I have, or I don't know. I can try a number of stuff. So it will try to think about, okay, do I have anything in the data that makes sense? So I don't have, okay, fine. So I would say sales. Yes, sales I do have, right? So I can say sales variance percentage, etc., etc. So you can just type in as and when on your data. So it will create the report for you actually, right? So you don't need to pre-create the report. Q&A is about creating the report automatically based on based on the power of AI, etc., that is running behind Power BI, right? So this is one of the aspects of Power BI Cloud. Okay, allows you to query your data and of course to view the data and to create dashboards. So I've told you also that Power BI has got also the ability for you to create your own reports. So if I open one of those reports, just by clicking on those reports, if I have edit access, of course, okay, I will have the ability to modify this report, because if I go here, I have edit here. Okay, so if I edit, I have pretty much exactly the same visuals that I would have on my Power BI desktop. Okay, I can change it, I can view it, I can say this, I don't want this, I want that, I don't want this color, I can change the data colors, I don't want this color, I want another color. Right, so I can change it, right? So directly in the cloud, I am making changes to my report. And of course, what you have to make sure is the report you're changing here is only affecting whatever is published in the cloud, and definitely not changing whatever you have in your Power BI desktop, because this is only a copy, right? So what you can do as well is, now I will switch back to my reading view. So this is a reading view and the other one was an edit mode, right? So I have changed it. So now it will reflect for everybody that uses this report. So now this is about modifying an existing report. What about creating reports from scratch? You can do that directly in the cloud without using Power BI Desktop. If you go here, you have get data, okay? And in get data, you have the ability to connect to all these sources. You can connect to services, online services, you can connect to some files, and you can see here you are limited only to connect to some local file, Excel, some file in OneDrive, or some files in SharePoint. And here it will be looking at some Excel files. If you want to connect to database, you can connect to all only these databases. So you can see that if you want to create a report directly from Power BI Cloud, then you have got some limitations in terms of what you can connect to, right? In terms of data sources. So this is why the best way is create your report with desktop. You will have much more options in terms of data sources, and then publish it to the cloud. Right. So if you don't want to go desktop, you can still create it, but these are the limitations. If you want to create it from the cloud itself, right? Because the cloud only allows you to connect to files from the cloud, right? So only services on cloud services, and of course it's not open to connecting to a number of other sources, right? You can connect to online services, obviously, but not as many sources that you would have found in. So these are the sources that you can connect to directly from the cloud. Okay, these are cloud-based services, right? So Google Analytics, etc. Right. So this is about the cloud. Any question so far? No. Okay. Right. So yes.
Sorry. If I have a cloud version but a local SQL server, so I want to use the cloud Power BI, but to connect on a local SQL server, is it something possible?
Yes. Yes. So the question was, can we use Power BI Cloud and connect that Power BI Cloud to a local SQL server? The answer is yes, you can. You have to use something called, so if you look at my screen, there's something that you can download, which is called a data gateway, right? So a data gateway allows Power BI Cloud to connect to that on-premise, because remember the Power BI Cloud is on a public network. So if you want to allow that Power BI Cloud to connect to your database, you have to use a layer which is called a gateway. You download that gateway from here itself, you install it on that SQL server, and once you install it, you configure it, it will just allow Power BI to connect to that on-premise SQL server. Okay. But yes, that's definitely possible.
Yes,
For any
yes,
source.
yeah, thank you.
But for any source, right? So, next thing is about when you look at my Power BI cloud. So if you look at my workspace, right? This is my workspace. I have a number of contents, so dashboards and reports. I have data sets. Okay, these are all my data sets. Okay, these are data sets. Data sets are all the data that is behind those reports, right? So if I look at any of them, so for example, this one, I can configure it by changing some of the aspect of that data set. For example, I can say, I can create a report out of it. So I can directly here create a report, okay, from that data set, okay? Because remember, in get data, you don't have much option. So if you have a data set, you can create a report, right? Well, this is an interesting feature. Why? Because you can imagine if you are the one creating the report, you can only create one report, basic report, with the data at the back. And when you publish it, it publishes the data sets. When you share that report, you can decide to share the corresponding data set. It gives the users the ability to create their own report based on your data set. Okay, so even if you haven't created the appropriate report, or let's say your business users is not 100% happy with the report you have created, they can create their own report. Because of course you don't want them to modify what you have created, so you won't give them right access, but you can give them access to that data set, so they can just connect here and say create report. So what they will do is they will create a report. Of course, these are users that doesn't have Power BI desktop installed. Doesn't matter, they don't need it. So they are only a business user, so they want to go and say, no, now I want to view all my sales. Start by typing here, total sales or amount. Sales. Right, so I can say total sales, and they can start by manipulating that and changing that. Okay, that's the total sales. Now I want to do something else. I want to do this chart and make it look a little bit bigger and say this is also total sales and by month. I can just type it in and say this is month. Right, so I will explain to you this later on, but I'm just removing year, quarter, and day from here. I'll just keep month. Right, so it gives me, my report is created. So simple to use for any user that can create a report. They can change it. All the visuals are there. Now there are a couple of steps that they can do as well. Okay, so they can select it. Let me just make it like this. So what they can do is they can start making the report look a little bit better by putting some text box. Okay, for example, like this, and say this is sales report for the year, whatever. Right, so I will just make it a little bit bigger, and that's it. Right, so I put some headers on it, etc., etc. So I can put some borders as well. So if I select on this visual, so you can see there is a background color that I can put. You can say that this is my report, sales report for the month, right? So you start making it look better, so with some borders, etc. So this is how your report will look like. So you can put headers, you can put logos, you can put shapes, you can put a number of stuff on that report. Okay, so So this is your first report created 100% from the cloud, from a data that exists already in the cloud. So I can now save it. Okay, my first cloud. So this is the report built 100%, but again, like you have seen, I haven't started from scratch with the get data. I have started from an existing source because I don't have the data. I might not even have access to that data to know where to go. I mean, so you have access only to view the data and to use them, right? So, and of course, now that you have it in the cloud, you can create a dashboard out of it. You can do a number of stuff, right? So you can also, once you have that dashboard, I'll show you a nice functionality of the cloud, which is, so let me just open up one of my reports. So if you look at that report, I have the ability on the cloud to export this report to PDF, or of course to print it, but I would want to export that to PowerPoint and I want to show you what happens. So let me export that with the current values to PowerPoint. So if you have a presentation, and basically what would you would do, you would take snippets of this report or make a screenshot or whatever. So no need to do that. Power BI Cloud can do that for you. Just export it to PDF, PowerPoint, sorry, and you can do PDF as well. Let's wait for questions. Meanwhile, we wait for that export to happen. No, okay.
Hello, Akhtar.
Yes.
I have a question in the meantime.
Mhm.
Let's say I have a client whose database sits on premise, okay, SQL database, and the client would like to have access to Power BI reports on his mobile, even when he's out of the country, and for several users. Okay, so what would be the best way to go through to design the reports on the desktop and then publish it on the cloud?
Yeah, definitely the way to go is to create the report using Power BI desktop, then publish it to the cloud. But then the data, you said that the data is in a SQL Server table on premise, right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so then what you have to do is you have to install what we call the gateway, the data gateway that will connect your, because when you start designing the report, it will work fine. It will connect to the local SQL server because your Power BI desktop will connect to the local SQL server, so which is fine. So, but as soon as you take that report and you publish that report to the cloud, the report will be disconnected with that database because the report sits in the cloud and the database is on premise, so it will be disconnected, right?
Yes.
So what
Mhm.
you have to do now then is to create what we call a data gateway. So if you see my screen, on that download button, there's an option, an application called a data gateway. You have to install that data gateway on the SQL server. This will allow the Power BI cloud, wherever it is open, whether it is open on the mobile or whether it's open on the web, it will allow this to be connected to, it will allow the report to connect to the SQL server. Because without this gateway, you can't connect a Power BI report, which is on the cloud, to a local database.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if I show
Thank
you now my PowerPoint, so this is what he has built. Okay, he has created a PowerPoint with a first page. This is what Power BI Cloud does for you. A first page with a overview. So it will make a snapshot of each page, overview exactly as you would have done it. So you don't have to take snapshots. So you just let Power BI do it for you. So it will create a first page and all the pages, right? So it looks exactly as the report here, basically. So these are all my pages. So it has taken an info page, an overview page, a district monthly sales, and a new store sales. So you don't have to do the snapshot, so Power BI does it for you. Same thing apply for PDF or if you want to print it, right? Right. Okay, so this is now a couple of options that you have on Power BI Cloud. So you can edit, I've shown you that. You can get a copy, you can analyze the data, you can take it back to Excel if you want to take it back to Excel. You can use embedded code. So I've talked about embedded in terms of licensing. So now, if you want to embed this report in SharePoint or in a website, which is an internal one, like an intranet, or you want to embed it in a public-facing website, you just go publish to web, and you take this URL, sorry, this iframe, okay? This, you can just take this and put it in your website. It will open, and of course, if you want to do this, you have to have Power BI embedded license. If you don't have, then you, of course, technically you will not be prohibited to do it, but legally you can't. So this is one way that you want to show your report on a public-facing website. So you have to be careful because this will just show the report in a public-facing website. So if it's not something that you can share publicly, so be careful when you do that. Because this link, as soon as you give that to anyone, I mean anyone will be able to click on that link and to view that report. Of course, only that report, not all the rest of the reports, right? So this report, as soon as you do it, with that link, becomes publicly available. Okay. So this is about embedded. Right, so there are three options to that. So then another thing is if you want to use, for example, you want to use QR code. So when somebody scans that QR code, it opens up the report automatically. So you can generate a QR code for each report, right? And this is your report. You can download that and put that somewhere. Imagine that it is, I don't know, a daily progress report or whatever. So you can just put a QR code somewhere. So everyone that comes and scans these QR codes with their mobile phone, that report will open up automatically. Of course, again, licensing applies. Depending on what you have, you will be able or not to view this report. But you can have, this is just a quick and easy access from mobile device to have access to that report. So these are the quick key functionalities that you have here. So one last point is about refresh. I've told you that refresh is important in Power BI. So if you want to, because when you look at that dashboard, it will not be refreshed automatically, apart from if you have scheduled refresh. So if you want to refresh it manually, just to make sure you have the data, you hit on the refresh button and it will refresh the data. Right. So talking about data and about refresh, there is an important aspect that you have to know about Power BI, right? So I will get back to my Power BI desktop to explain you that. Yeah. So when you connect to a database, and this time I would like to create a new one.
a new file, and I will connect that to a SQL Server database. So let's give it a minute and just load another one. Right. So let's create a new one, and I will now go get data. So this is how you create your report. You always start get data, and this time instead of connecting to a Excel, I will connect to a SQL server that I have running locally. So I will choose SQL server, right? So SQL server database. I will connect to that. And I am currently connecting to a data warehouse, right? So let me just, so the point is here, look at this connectivity mode. There is something called import and another one called direct query. So it's very important when you start designing or working your reports, depending on what you are hitting, you might have to choose one or the other. So import means that Power BI will create a snapshot of the database within that report. Okay, so it's very important, which means that if you have a 10 gigabyte database, Power BI will import that 10 gigabyte database. Okay, so the advantages of that is you can view the report anytime without doing a refresh. Even if the connection is broken to the database, the report will still show you the last refreshed data. Direct query, as the name says, it creates a direct connection without creating a snapshot of the data, without importing the data into the Power BI report. So, which makes it live data, right? So this is going to be live data. There is not going to be snapshot. Each and every time you open the report, it will open directly. So there will not be any data snapshot done. So if ever database connection is broken, the report will show an error. Okay? Right. So these are the two options. The first one, you use it for, I would say, a database with a small or medium size. So if you have a huge databases, for example, you are connecting to cubes or whatever, then you would use direct query, right? So else, for this time, I would use import. I will connect to my local server. So it asks me now, how do I want to connect? Do I want to use local credential or I want to use a database account? I will say use local credential. So I will connect to my database. So you can see I have AdventureWorks here, which is my database. So this is a data warehouse, right? So a data warehouse consists, for those that are familiar with the data warehouse, consists of some fact table and some dimensional table, right? So fact table is only all the data, and dimension is how do I want to view the data. So let me just take, for example, sales data. And I have a nice feature here called select related tables. It will select all tables related to that main sales table. Okay, all the dimensions table that are connected to this sales table will be selected. So I'll just give it a minute for it to select whatever has to be selected. Right, so all have been selected. So now I will just make sure that, okay, so it's fine. So I will just load it. So because I have used import, you can see now what will happen at my screen. It will start importing all the data. You will see that it's loading the data, and you can even see at some point the volume of the data that is currently being imported. So it will first create the model. The model is the cube that he needs at the back. It will create the model, create the tables, create the relationships. So we'll come back to the relationships in a while. And it will import all the rows. Okay, so which makes your Power BI file becoming a bit bulky depending on the data that you have. But again, it's compressed data, so it's going to reflect. It's not going to reflect the exact size of the database. It will be definitely less.
Actually, if we sorry, Tahir here, if you are going to use the Power BI cloud version and we are going to import our local database as you are doing here, so it means that I think we have a limitation of 10 gig there on the
Yes,
Pro.
we have 10 gigabyte. Yes.
And what happens if we exceed this 10 gig? Will it allow us and charge us more, or
Yes.
how it works?
Yes, it will just allow. It will propose you to buy more storage.
Okay.
Yeah. Right, so my data is imported here, right? So I can now exactly I would do my reports in my Excel. It works the same way. But now let's have a quick look at the model. The model is the relations, right? So you can see that here, because it's a SQL Server table and the relationships was already done in the SQL Server, you can see here that all the relations has been done. And this is what we call in BI language or in the BI world, this is what we call a fact, I would say, a star schema, right? This is what we call a star schema. This is the model that is used, the semantic model that is used in BI for analytics. Because this is not going to be the same model as a relational database. Because a relational database, one is linked to another, and another one is linked to another, etc., etc. This is a model where the fact table is in the middle, and all the dimensions table are surrounding the fact table and are linked to the fact table. So it means that this one table is linked to all other tables. This is what we call a star schema, right? So you can see here. What does that mean if I have to read and interpret that? This means that what I want to analyze is all my sales by employee, by promotion, by reseller, and all of these are dimensions by product, by currency at the same time, by date and by territory. So if I want to analyze my sales by all these dimensions, whether at once or at the same time, with this schema, I will be able to do so. With this model, I will be able to do so. And this is a BI model. This is a semantic model for analytics purposes. It works in any platform. Microsoft, non-Microsoft, they all use the same concept at the back. So it uses the same star schema concept at the back to be able to reflect your data or to analyze your data. So Power BI allow you to replicate this schema or to maintain this schema. And if ever it happens that the relationship is not correct, right? If the relationship is not correct, you can just double click and change it. Okay, and you can see now this is a relationship that link currency to currency, and it's a many to one relationship. Okay, so you can change it, make it to one to many if you need. So it depends on you. You have to analyze the data and change it as you feel is good depending on your structure. Okay, so data is the same. Okay, you can still view the data as you would have viewed it. As we have done it in Excel, it doesn't make a big difference here whether you import it from Excel or not. What was the key difference is when you import it from SQL Server, it creates the relationships for you because it has got multiple tables linked to each other. So now how can I use that relationship tables, etc.? So all of these tables here, remember they are all linked to this reseller sales table. They're all linked to the sales table, right? So for example, if I just want to show like this pie chart, and I want to show product. Okay, let me just expand my product, and I want to show my product. Okay, so you will see that there's no data showing up as such. Okay, because I have to tell him what data I want to see. Okay, I've told him, yeah, the legion is going to be product, but what is going to be the values? What I want to show? Do you want to show the sum of the product or the amount of the quantity of product sold? I want to show, for example, so these are all my fields, and you can see those with the summation symbol are the measures, if you remember, right? So I want to show, for example, my sales amount. So now it will start to show up. So it shows me, okay, fine. So these are my sales amount by product. So it's a bit too cluttered because product is too much. I don't want to use product. I want to use, for example, finish. I can create any other, I can show you, for example, I can choose a category or something. Yes. So I can say, no, there's only promotion. Yeah, let's choose, for example, sales by salesman. So I would go employee. And you can see here, these are all dimensions. For example, here, it's showing me the employee as a dimension. It's a separate table. So now I can see by employee, of course, this is the ID number. Do I have the employee name? This is the employee ID. No, I don't have the name. Anyway, so I can decide to show by department. So they are all linked together. I can decide to show by some other dimensions, not only by employee, but I can choose any other dimension. So employee, product, promotion, reseller, territory. Yeah, that's right, territory. So I would say by sales territory. So you can see now, no, this is the territory ID. Yeah, so this is good. So this is showing me the territories, so the countries. So I've got my first, and again, this is linked to that data warehouse at the back. And you can see once the data is important, it's not, it's imported here. We don't have any performance issues as such. So now if I want to create another one like this, I can just select and copy paste it. It will create another visual. I can just go to that visual and change it, make it like a line chart, and now says, okay, this is my sale by country, the same kind of visual represented differently. I can just change that and make that a chart. Okay, very easy switch from one to the other, and you can see the chart will start showing up, right? So now you have, for each visual, let's go about the visual now. For each visual, there is the ability to format the visual. So if you see each visual, I select on each visual, I have 3 different sections: fields, format, and this is analytics, right? So some have got analytics features, some doesn't have. Analytics is how much it has been used, etc. So if I look at this one, this is a pie chart. It has got 3 different areas. So there is the legion, the details, and the values, right? And of course the tooltip. If I want to hover, I want him to show something else, so I can add tooltip. This is as Excel, no big deal here. However, in formatting, I have much more functionalities than you would have in Excel, most probably, right? So you have data colors, so you can change the colors, okay, of the figures there. You can have details on or off, we can see. We can put a title, we can put a background to make it more interesting. So we can say, yes, I want a background, and I want that background to look like this. So I can start like this. I can make a clear one. Like this, I can play on the transparency, etc. Right? So this is the background. I can make it look like look a bit more fancy. I can put some border, I can put some tooltip, and this kind of stuff I can do. Right? May I ask you to just mute your mic if you're not speaking, please? Right. So this is about this one, and if you look at the chart, the map now, the map has got probably some different controls. You can see it has got bubbles, and we can increase the size of the bubbles depending on the values. Right. So the more you have done sales, the more the bubbles will be bigger. So you can have map controls. Do you want to have zoom, or you want to have zoom button activated, yes or no? Right. So it will activate the zoom button here. So these are the couple of features that we have. So now I want to show you another interesting feature. So this is fine. Okay, this I have got the. I know how much. What are the countries that are selling the most? But I want to know what is the product that is selling the most. Okay, so I can do something very nice here. Okay, there is a visual that I want to use, but it's not listed here. So I will go in that import a custom visual, and I will import a custom visual from the app source. App source is like the marketplace, right? Because I want a very, very specific visual, and it's not there, so I want to go and find it online. Some of the visuals are free online, some of them are paid. So if I want to use that one, which is called a word cloud, which is the free, basically free one, so I just select it. It will add that visual to my list of visual here, right? So imported, fine. So you can see it's here, imported visual. So I would select this, and I would add to this. It asked me for free fields. What is my category? What is my values? And should I have any exclusion? So I would say, okay, I want to find the, of course, I want to measure the amount. Was that amount? Yeah, sales amount. This is going to be my values, and my category, how I want to view that would be my product. Okay, so product, I just need a bit more space to show you. So I want the English product name. I have the French product name as well in my database. So let's go with the English product name. And you can see it is actually building up some nice look and feel for you to tell you that the mostly sold product is this one, mountain something. And you have sold for 32, blah, blah, blah. So I can just switch from the French product name, because in my database I have the French product name. So Vélo, right? So it was mountain bike, I guess. So Vélo is the one that I've, or VTT is another one. Well, I have a number of them in my database. So I can choose which one I want, and it's actually showing me very visually what is it that I have sold the most. Okay, well, my most top selling product is, for example, Velo, and of course, depending on the value, the font size gets smaller. Okay, so this is a nice feature that you can use, and this is a visual. For this example, I haven't used an existing visual. I have imported a visual from the marketplace, right? So you can add like this visual from the marketplace. You create them. If you don't have visuals that you feel it's interesting for you, you want to use other visuals, you can go to the marketplace and choose. Here there's a number of other visuals that you can use, okay, depending on your data and depending on how you want to view the data. So it might, some of them might be very interesting depending on how you want to view your data, right? So this is the difference when you query a SQL Server table, when you query a data warehouse, right? The rest is pretty much the same. Of course, it all depends. For you to have good return on your data and to have the ability to have good visual and good analysis of your data, because With this, I can analyze by whatever I want. I can analyze my sales by vendor, by product, by color. I can even see here, let us say I want to choose color. Okay, the color that interests me. Okay, so I don't want to bother by product name. I want to know what is the color that is most sold. So it will see black is the one that people prefer. Okay, so this is all coming from my database. Of course, I have to have all those information in the database. You have to have all the details of the information. If you don't have the details, you can't analyze. This typically is an example of a data warehouse, right? This is a data warehouse, and basically if you want to do real good deeper analysis of your data, you have to have a proper data warehouse organized into fact table and dimensions table. If you don't have, it doesn't matter, because I've shown you an example with that Excel, simple Excel file that works as well, right? So if you have a data warehouse, of course, you will be able to do deeper analysis. If you have a simple Excel file, you will be limited in the type of analysis that you can do, right? So this one I can go further down in my analysis and do a lot of stuff. With an Excel file, I'll be definitely limited, right? Right. So again, this is all done in Power BI Desktop, right? So we are still in Power BI Desktop. So we are not changing that. We remain in Power BI Desktop, and we also want to create our report in Power BI Desktop. Okay, this doesn't change. Right. So these are about visuals. Okay, so still in Power BI Desktop. Let me just put that a bit down here. Right. So Power BI Desktop now, if we go furthermore, you can see that you can create your new visual. Okay, if you have the ability to create one, you create and you add them, you import them. Okay, you can even, there are two ways to add visual. You can import directly from the marketplace, or you can import it from a file. If you have received it or you have downloaded it from somewhere, you can import it from a downloaded file. Okay, right. So you can also make your report looks much nicer, but by adding like headers or buttons. I'll come back to that. Shapes, images, if you want to add icons, or if you want to add logos or whatever you want, you can have it added on your report, right? So modeling is where you can create additional columns. Okay, if there are here, you want to create more columns and you don't have enough columns, or you want to create some different columns, you can use here modeling to create columns, or what we call here to create measures, right? So you can also create parameters. I'll get back to that later on. I've talked about rules when I was asked the question, how do you segregate data? So rules is an important part for you to segregate data, right? So basically rules work with username. The user which is currently logged on is about username. Q&A is something that I've shown you in the cloud version. Of course, you can create it here. You can have Q&A in the Power BI Desktop as well. Okay, so Q&A, you first start by managing, by teaching the Q&A, right? So remember, behind it's an AI model, so you can teach your Q&A by typing in questions. I'll come back to that. You can even manage terms. You can create terms like specific terms, profit, etc., and teach Q&A. What does that mean? So that when you start asking questions, it knows where to go and to get those information. All right. Yeah. So now view is to changing a bit the layout. If you want to change from one layout to the other, change a bit of the color scheme. You can see that the bubble changes color, etc. So these are different themes that you can use, right? So something else is about something we call the phone layout, right? So if you have multiple, because this is going to be the layout for a normal desktop view. Now, if you keep on adding other stuff, let's say I want to add another one. Okay, so I want to make it a little bit smaller and say that this is going to be like this, right? So this is showing the sales amount, and I want to have another one. Okay, that is actually showing not the sales amount but the quantity. Okay, let's look for that quantity. Oops. Right, so order quantities, I want to replace that by the amount. So this is the order quantity, right? So, so it starts to look a bit bulky. There's a lot of stuff on there. So what if somebody opens this with the mobile app? So you have to prepare the mobile app. So what you have to do, there's something called the phone layout. So if you switch to the phone layout, it gives you a phone layout and it gives you all your visual. And you can start by saying, okay, first thing I want is I want to start designing my phone layout. So I want to put the card first. This is what we call cards. And then I want to put my chart. And also the chart, I want that to take a little bit more space, like this. And finally, I want to add my word cloud, and let's make that a little bit bigger. So this is how you have designed, of course, depending on what you have on your mobile phone. So you can make it more bulky, you can make it less bulky, you can say, no, I don't want this finally, I want only this, and I want to make it like this. So you have different layers, different slices, so you can move up and down, slide up and down in your mobile phone layout. So this is how you create the mobile phone layout, and everybody who access that will view definitely the mobile phone layout. All right, so you can very quickly, mobile phone layout depends on what you have on the, what you have created as the visual, definitely, right? So, okay, questions so far? No? All right. Okay, so Power BI Desktop allows you to create a multi-page report, right? So this is a one-pager. You can see page 1. You can create another page, page 2, and start building another set of visual. Okay, here you can start building something else. So first, well, it depends how you want to create, but the way I like to create my report first is I always start by choosing the value. What is it that I am going to analyze? So is it amount? So if it is amount, I always start by selecting the amount because this is what I want to view. And then from there, I choose what visual I want. Okay, so now I want to say, okay, I want a bar chart visual, fair enough. So now, what are my legion? So I can start saying, now I want to view that by promotion. Okay, so I have something called promotion. So I have an English promotion name. So I'm going to just drop that in the legion here. So you have promotion. Promotion means discount or no discount or reserved or whatever, right? So I can start by building. I can just move it to axis. Then it will be presented differently, right? So I can decide to add another legion or not adding any legion, right? So this is how you start. And then if you're not happy with the visual, you can still go and change it, make it look different, or instead of choosing this, I would rather choose a pie chart. It depends, you can easily from now change it, right? So the pages are not connected to each other. What I mean is if I have clicked, for example, on this location. Remember, it will filter down all the rest. Okay, does it? Yeah, it does. Okay, so okay, but doesn't make big difference. So let's choose black. Does it make a difference on the? Well, it does. Let's see. Not that much. Let's choose Australia because I think. Yeah, okay. So now you can see the difference because in US there was a lot of sales for the same product. So you can see now it's different, but the pages are not linked to each other because this one that is not filtered. This one is still showing the same value, right? So one page, when you filter one page, it doesn't filter the other. However, if you want to have a filter that applies to all pages, you go to filters and you do filter all pages, okay? When you add a filter here, whether it's going to be here, or whatever you're going to add here, this will apply on all the pages, right? So these are pages that we have to do. Then what you can do is if you want to navigate from one page to the other, you can use buttons. So we've seen that there were buttons. So if I show you here buttons, I can put like a small button like this. I can say, for example, right arrow. And you can put that here. For example, this can go to next page. So on that button, you can see when I click on it, I can customize or I can change some parameters. There's one parameter called action. If I go to action, it will ask me what do you want to do? Do you want to go back? Do you want to go forward? Not forward, but back? And do you want to drill through or do you want to do page navigation? And where do you want to go? I want to go to page 2. And this, it's a next, for example, page. So if I do that, this is going to be an action. And when I click on it, it will open page 2. Right? So you can create like this some navigation, because if you have multiple pages, you can create some navigations that allows you to navigate from one page to the other, right? So if you have a lot of pages, it kind of help you to navigate from one page to the other, make it more easier for users to navigate if there are multiple pages, right? So this is one thing to be noted. There is nothing as such like on this you put a link that goes somewhere else, right? So the only way that you have to do is to use actions, okay? And actions can take you to other pages, right? There is no link as such, or link that you probably have been using links in other systems or in reporting services. Here you don't have links. You can use buttons and actions or bookmarks. Okay, these are a couple of stuff that you can use. I will show you bookmarks most probably tomorrow, but this is something that you can use and you can do. Right. So, any questions? Anyone has got any questions so far?
I think we're good.
Yeah? No?
Yeah, we're good. Yeah.
After, I
Yes.
have a question. You said that with our Dynamics 365 license, we can have
No. Office 365. Office 365.
yeah,
Yeah, or Microsoft 365 license, yeah.
Office 365 license. We can have access to Power BI desktop version. That's it.
No, Power BI desktop. Power BI desktop, you don't need any license, so it's free anyway. But
To which
if you have Office 365 E5 plan, then you have the Power BI Pro license. But Power
okay,
BI desktop is a free tool, so you can use it. But when you have to publish, then you need the Pro account. And the Pro account comes on its own. You either buy it on its own or you buy it as part of the Office 365 bundles.
okay, okay,
Yeah.
good.
So I will now open the floor for any discussion. So I don't have any further topics that I want to share for today. I just want to leave the floor for any suggestion, questions, or experience that you guys have, or concerns or issues, whatever that you want to share that we can discuss. So it's now open. You can open up your mic and we can start sharing. And is this new for everybody, or you guys are used to Power BI?
That's something new actually I've seen first time.
First time you've seen Power BI. Okay, so what are your feelings?
Like it's an interesting tool actually for the people who does a lot of reporting and analytics. This tool is really makes sense for them.
Hmm.
So,
Anybody
it's
has?
Tahir.
Yes.
So it's
Yeah.
Tahir here, actor. So, as you know, Jiffin, we
Yeah.
have been in this model since long. So, my question to you would be, I was planning to start using Power BI soon. Today I was able to see it's in depth, and I think there's more if you drill down, and you can do lots of things with it. But one thing I would like to know from you, actor, is that what's the difference? What is the advantages compared to Click or Tableau? Is it a better product? Is it something that what kind of limitation compared to the others too that we have on the market? What makes him the edge? Yeah.
I think, look, I don't know Click in details, but I think Tableau has been on the market since a while, and Tableau is quite good actually in terms of what it does and the presentations, etc. But on the other side, I would say that Power BI has got an ease of doing things, right? So because Power BI has tried to simplify a lot of stuff that would require from other tools, most probably a lot more effort. I mean, technical effort as compared to Power BI. There's a lot of stuff that has been way simplified in Power BI actually. And the good thing is that you keep getting updates for free as and when they are released. Okay, I'm talking about desktop, obviously, right? So, but of course, whatever applies to desktop applies to all the range. But for designing report, Power BI Desktop is a great tool, and it's very, very easy to use. It has been made for the business actually, and you can see how the Power BI Desktop is kind of easy to use, and of course it can be used by technical people. It can be complex as well, but still Power BI is, I would say, for me, the key differentiating factor is the ease of use, especially when you look at some complex stuff like transformation that is quite complex to do in even in Microsoft area itself, because I remember I used to do those transformation using something called integration services, or DTS, with a long time ago. But now with Power BI, you can actually build your own ETL tool, extract, transform, and load tool. You build that in Power BI itself. And so it gives you a lot of ability. So business users can create easily their reports. And this is the key thing actually about self-service BI. Actually, this is the
Yeah.
key differentiating factor for me.
Yes, actor. So I got your point. Yeah. So that was for me. It's a
Yeah.
very good session. Thanks, actor, and thanks FOCI for conducting this. So thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, so if you any guys have got anything else, I think Shalini, if you want to add something else, because for me, I think it's done from my side. Anyone, any questions or remarks or comments?
No, I'm good, doctor. I think if we don't have any questions, we can carry on with the second session tomorrow.
Yeah. So if you have seen what it does, so for all those that have got Power BI currently implemented and have got some challenges and we would like to share with us, so please bring them on tomorrow. We can discuss most probably if you have any specific challenge. So maybe I can help, I can discuss, else we will just continue tomorrow. All right, guys, so thank you very much. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for being there. So I hope to see you guys tomorrow. Have a great evening. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Arun. Thanks, Akhtar.
Thanks, Vivek. Bye.